Cast of the Neil Haley Show and Celebrity Interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so excited to talk to our next guest. I mean, here's an amazing man that if you turn on anything, you'll usually see him in it. It's just
Yeah.
incredible.
A. Martinez. When you think about back to your career and everything, did you think it would get to this level? You keep working as a working actor, but you constantly are doing new things and new opportunities, right?
Yeah, I made a joke one time. I think I was on Regis and Kathy Lee back in the day when it was the two of them, and he said, "So you're always working like crazy, aren't you?" And I go, "Well, I feel like I'm sort of constantly limping along, Regis." And he said, "No, no, that's the wrong answer. You're supposed to say that you're doing great all the time." So, in honesty, I felt like I've been steady, but sort of not too hot for pretty much ever. And now, oddly enough, I'm getting a lot of work. It's kind of shocking, actually, at this point in time. Feels really good.
I'll have to say one of the things that I know, maybe we'll get right to Longmire in a bit, but Dark Winds, dude, I love that show. I love it.
Wow. Me
Yeah.
too, man. I've done five things over the years with Zahn McClarnon. One of the first things I think it was an HBO show called Grand Avenue, and I was playing the protagonist, and he was just getting started. He had like one or two scenes, and even back then you go, oh, that guy. Oh, Robert Taylor on Longmire calls him Fingers because he steals every scene that he's in. But the truth is, he's just an amazing actor, and when I saw that he got that, I was so stoked for him, and then to get to come and play alongside him on it, it's like a dream come true, actually. Yeah.
Definitely. And let's talk about how it all started in acting for you. Did you always want to be an actor?
I didn't. I wanted to play baseball. I was fantasizing that the reason the Dodgers came to Los Angeles is because they knew that somehow they needed me on their pitching staff or some crazy thing. I didn't have any idea really what it meant, obviously, to play baseball or play any sports on a serious level. But I wanted to do that, and then I got jumped into to singing. My father started bringing home the auto harp from his elementary school class, and we would sing together. And we started singing a lot. And then I got into a musical in school that this teacher cast me in, The King and I. And next thing it's sort of like, what's this acting thing? And then I got lazy over the last summer between high school and college, and I was going to study political science, and they sent me this list of 11 books you have to read before you start, and I thought, oh man, this is the last summer of freedom. I don't want to read these 11 books. And I had a friend from drama class who he was going to the same school, both going to UCLA, and his task over the summer was to write a 500-word story about himself. And I thought, I'm chasing the wrong dog here. So I jumped into it just out of my laziness. And of course, one thing one thing I'd come to understand in going to drama class was that the girls that you met in drama class were some of the coolest girls you'd ever meet. I mean, they were just more adventuresome than most people. And I thought, I want to be around girls like that. So it was like a combination of sloth and a little bit of youthful lust that got me into chasing acting, I think. True.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you started out, and maybe even today, when you're acting, like, who were some of the influences, older actors, younger actors, whatever, that you have in your mind or that you think about that help shape, your performances?
Well, my father's two favorite actors were Cantinflas, the comedian from Mexico, and John Wayne. So we saw all the John Wayne movies, and that obviously seeped in really early. It was astonishing to get to work with him in the Cowboys. My dad thought I was, he was a little bit disappointed that I gave up on, actually trying to get a degree and being a serious student in college. I just started doing all these plays and not going to class, truthfully. And he just he was really worried for me. He was genuinely thinking I was throwing my life away. And so when I got cast in the Cowboys, then it was like, oh, maybe there's something there. So it was that. And then over the years, I got to work with Zero Mostel, the director of Farhaven. Actually, Gary Wheeler just sent me a link to a movie I made with Zero Mostel in like 1972 or 3. Oh my goodness, I was bad. I mean, I just, it's astonishing to see some of that early stuff, and you go, and they let me do another job after that. It's just amazing. But I learned a lot from Zero, and I just got to work with certain people over the years that shined a light. I got to work with Meryl Streep on She-Devil, and she had been my hero, still is my hero. I think she's the best who does it. And so you just, one of the great miracles of it is if you get success on any level, you get to learn from people who are good at it, and that's the best way to learn how to do it. So Meryl Streep, John Wayne, Zero Mostel early on.
Wow. And when you think about all that, what led you had a longer career before Westerns, or I mean later in your career with soap operas and being soaps.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
kind of got you in the soap game? Because that's what you're recognized on a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, honestly, that's a really good question, Neil. I thought my agent at the time, Alex Brewis, was giving up on me when he dangled this in front of me. He first described it as something like Dynasty or Dallas, where those nighttime shows where you're spending 8 days or 7 days to shoot an hour of TV, not a daytime show where you're shooting an hour every single day. And that scared the bejesus out of me. I just thought I had vague memories of watching soap operas where the scene would end and the camera would just stay on the actor's face and the music would swell and they just leave the camera there, and the poor actor would have to like pull all these faces to try to like make it be interesting to look at. I thought, oh man, I don't want any part of that. But my wife, who had Leslie, my wife since 88, actually. She 82. God, it's bad when you start forgetting when you got married. But she had seen some soaps and had a higher opinion of them. When I got the script for Santa Barbara, I looked at it and I thought, I don't know how to do this. It's just it's too sentimental for me to know what to do with it. And she said, well, why don't you rewrite it? So I went to a park about 3 blocks away, 4 blocks away from NBC in Burbank, and I sat under a big tree and with a yellow legal pad, and I made up a scene based on the scene that they were asking me to shoot. And so when I went into audition for that, and there was a whole room full of us trying to get that part, and I had a tremendous advantage, which I had seized without asking permission. Because I was doing exactly what I felt I could do and keep my chops intact. And boy, I tell you, I've told that story to some of the actors because I meet a lot of actors over the years who were trying to get that part, get cruises. Right. And when I tell them that what I did, they don't feel good about it. And I think there's a lesson in it, which is, fortune favors the bold. And to walk in there and say, well, and I said to her when I got in the casting director, I said, I'm sorry, I just couldn't solve the scene. I couldn't solve it, but I could do this. And I gave her what I had written, and she goes, oh, we could do this. And she stood off camera and did my scene with me. So I had an unfair advantage, and even though I thought it was scary and impossible, it's in truth, that's really where I learned how to act. When you have to do a show every day, you get your ducks in a row. And it was a matter of realizing how much time and how much energy I was wasting in my life on a daily basis. Because when you have a job like that, you have to stop wasting time and stop wasting energy. Otherwise, you just can't do it. So it was a gift beyond, and I was too dumb to recognize it when it first showed up. But finally, I got to do it.
One take, right? or is a couple, not many takes for
Well,
so?
you know, it has turned into that now pretty much. After the OJ trial, the money started to die because the soap started to get canceled. OJ killed the whole model. Even I wanted to watch OJ instead of a soap. When he was on trial, you know, and doing that, that was must see TV. And you know, but in the day when we did Santa Barbara, it was more like a theater experience. We spend the first 3 hours, all the actors with the director working out what we're going to try to do. Then you go out on stage, you spend 3 hours with the cameras working on your stuff. Then you break for lunch, then you do an entire performance of the show as a dress rehearsal. Then you break for notes around 4 in the afternoon, like you do in the theater, where everybody gets fine-tuned. And all day long, you're watching all your colleagues, so you know what everybody's doing. You have a sense of what the show is that you're making that day. And then you go to tape, you know, at say 5 o'clock, and you shoot. At the beginning, it took us till midnight to shoot a show. But the thing was this: you realize that they want you to do it as quickly as possible. So if you can't do it, and you think they're going to say, and sometimes they say, "Oh, that was fine, you know, we'll fix it in the post." I would just stick my finger in my nose so that I realized they couldn't use that. And it was another kind of not asking for permission, but insisting I had to do it again. So I would take more than one take if I possibly could, and usually needed to.
That's
Yeah.
great. That show ran like 9, 10 years, right? That was.
Yeah, I think 9 years, and it was you know, it was successful all over the world. Roger Corman's old company, New World, that B movie company he had for so many years, they made it. So there was this network in place, and so they sent that show all over the world. You know, every market they'd say, "Here's Southern California glamour, and it's real cheap." And then they'd get 100 episodes, and they'd come back for more. And now it's not so cheap, but they'd hook their audience, and it was a tremendous benefit to all of us in terms of getting to get the kind of TV movies that would show overseas, because you had a show that was popular overseas.
How did you kind of venture back out of soaps so you didn't get typecast?
Yeah, that was part of the thing that's so scary about it. You know, Neil, you think, you know, because you see, I mean, so many actors and a lot of great actors. I mean, I worked with Tony Geary on General Hospital, you know, and he was on that show for what, 40 years? You know, there's people that are celebrating 50 years.
Wow.
And the thing I noticed about Tony was he'd made his peace. He did a few things outside of it, but he'd made his peace with what he was doing, and he treated every day like the most important day of his career. So I just, you know, you go, well, it's possible to actually do this and keep yourself together. But I just had the good fortune of, while I was doing it, I got to do an episode of LA Law where I played a childhood friend of Jimmy Smith's who got put in the gas chamber. And it was such a revelation, you know, how serious they took it. We went in a few days before we reported, and Jimmy and me and Bill Finkelstein and one other of the writers were sitting around improving. They'd write everything up, send it upstairs, come back with it. We'd improv again. We worked the material before we even started. And when I got there, they gave me, or before, the day before I got there, they sent me an article by God, I want to say Jean-Paul Sartre, about the last night in the lives of 3 Turkish prisoners who were going to be executed in the morning. Just food for thought about what people are like when they're about to die. And then they sent me a medical piece on the way cyanide kills you. And one of the great things about that was, you think, you know, if you hold your breath long enough, you can keep alive for a few minutes, but it actually comes at you through your skin. So I got to play that in the gas chamber. You know, I'm not going to let you kill me. I'm not going to breathe. And then the guy's holding his breath and slowly realizes, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose this battle without even breathing. And
Wow.
it's just, anyway, so I got to do that, and they knew me. And then they offered me a part on LA Law, playing another character, actually playing a lawyer. So that, you know, you got, well, I can't believe I got this opportunity, but I'm going to jump on it. And of course, LA Law was it had 2 more seasons. And and NBC wanted to cancel it, and it had become very expensive, and people were saying, "No, you can't cancel this. It's one of the most highly rated dramas on TV." But waiting in the wings for that Thursday night slot was ER. So NBC came out smelling like a rose with that, and I got to jump out of daytime into something with a lot of dignity to it. It was great.
Oh, wow.
Well, hey, you mentioned John Wayne, Fingers. What other actors, like, you're on the set and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm working with who? Who would that be? Yeah.
Well, a couple in the later years is certainly Gary Farmer. I worked with him in Powwow Highway, and he came and did a Longmire. He played the contrary. He did a couple, he just did a couple of scenes in Longmire. He did a scene with Lou Diamond Phillips and Rob Taylor. He was living under a bridge, homeless guy. And he did, in that scene, he was vacillating like Quicksilver between laughing and crying. I mean, the dude is a stone genius. And I think of I think of Rob Taylor and him in the same breath sometimes, because I've been acting in scenes with those two people, and looked away and come back and looked into their eyes, and you see something going on in their eyes that seems like it's connected to their endocrine system, like they're just so alive as a creature in the moment, that it actually, you can feel that the chemistry of their body is changing as they're having these new thoughts about the scene. And it can be breathtaking. I mean, I've almost fell out of a scene in Powwow Highway when I've been looking away, and I looked up at Gary, and there were tears streaming down his face because I had been treating him so rudely. And Rob Taylor too. I was telling him, he never liked Night Horse, and he was politicizing and going on with this BS and stuff. But I said a phrase that actually made him think, oh, it was about these kids that were being jumped into foster care. It's a true thing where you get a bounty, you get extra, you get double if you can bring an endangered indigenous kid into your foster care home or something. And so it was being abused. People were like kidnapping these kids for the money, the extra bounty. And Night Horse was trying to say this to Longmire. Longmire's, like, as usual, you're so full of it. But I said something that made him believe it, and his eyes changed. And I'm like, this far away from the dude. It's like the best seat in the house, and he's just that good. So those two men, certainly, they're just astonishing, and lucky to work with them.
All right, let's talk Farhaven now. Thank you, INSP, for setting up this interview. Tell us about, Farhaven and your character.
Well, I play the town blacksmith. I like to think of him as he's working in technology. He's keeping the transportation system in good shape. And we were going to shoot that in 2020, in March of 2020. In fact, I had booked my plane flight for that Friday, the 14th of March. And on the 11th was the day that Tom Hanks got sick with COVID, and his wife Rita Wilson, and the NBA canceled their season. And suddenly, and my wife and my son were playing in this rock and roll band in town that was doing a lot of business at a club out in the valley. And suddenly nobody showed up that night. And it was like, oh. And so they canceled, Farhaven, and put it off till August, but of course August was no better. So Gary Wheeler said, we're going to do this. We'll do it. And boy, true to his word, 3 years later, we did it. And the great thing was that I think all of us, I know I was able to do it better. I think in those 3 years, there was so much good came out of COVID for actors. They complain about it. We generally complain about it, but not me. When you can't go to auditions anymore, you have to send your audition in from home. So now you actually can do the scene you want to do. You're not driving away from the audition on the freeway going, well, why didn't I? If only I could have thought of, you're actually alone doing it. And so, you get to do what you want, for better or worse. And that made me a better actor. So I'm glad I got to do Farhaven after all this has happened. And of course, then they brought in Bailey Chase to play the lead, and
Mhm.
he's a brother to me. And it was just effortless to find the connection and be emotionally connected to his good fortune when he got good fortune in the thing. I just loved it so much. I thought that everybody brought their A game. One of the great gifts that Gary Wheeler brings beyond his writing and his producing chops is that as a director, the set is relaxed. You know, when there's a problem, he deals with it in a way that doesn't make you feel threatened or make you kind of feel like you're doing something wrong. I think early on, I realized when I was thinking about him that one of the first nights I'd done worked with him, I thought to myself, what's different? And what's different is you're hearing laughter, and a lot of the laughter is his voice. And so you're just relaxed. You know, the dude has an amazing gift for seeing the bright side of things, as he puts it. He's all about hope, and you know he's about hope. And as a director, it informs the way he treats people. It's just a beautiful thing. Great show.
Wow.
People love it. People love it.
All right, definitely check it out, INSP. Greg, go with your final question you ask every celebrity.
Yeah, I'm excited to ask you. Hey, it's been a real pleasure to meet you and have a chance to chat. But let me ask you this. Hey, tell me, what do you feel is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
That the idea that we're separate, that people and animals and plants and all that we're separate is an illusion. The truth is that you know, the force of life is a continuum, and we're all part of it. And this idea that we're, you know, either need to be dominant or protect ourselves from some aspect of it is an illusion. It's all of life is part of the same stuff.
That's great. Thank
All
you.
right. Where is the best place we can connect with you? Are you on social media, and people can check you
Yeah,
out?
yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook as A Bone Martinez, ABONE Martinez. It's my dad's nickname for me, and it was the only way I could get on Facebook. They wouldn't take A as a name, so I became A Facebook, and now I'm on.
Any other projects you're promoting right now?
Well, Avatar: The Last Airbender is on Netflix, and I have a great part in that, and it's the #1 show in the world right now. And I'll tell you what, watching it is a profoundly emotional experience. They found a bunch of young actors to play the leads. These young actors are just astonishingly brave. I mean, they're learning how to do it as they go, some of them, but their hearts are strong, and it's a wonderful show to watch. Avatar: The Last Airbender, Netflix.
Okay. Another thing for me to watch, Greg. I got
Right.
Longmire. As I was talking to Bailey about everyone that I interviewed, then I end up watching their projects. And that keeps me always going with specific things. And I really was missing during the whole strike. Oh man, I didn't, COVID didn't keep me from interviewing celebrities, but this did. It was only
Yeah,
could interview athletes. So I'm so glad that we're getting things back together, more auditions, more opportunity, and hopefully, the business continues to thrive. So I
yeah.
appreciate it, for stopping by.
Thank you, Neil.
That's
Thank
great.
you, Greg.
All
Good
Yeah,
talking.
right.
great to meet you.
And think about it, we're finally live from the grotto. Yeah,
That's
we're
true.
finally live from the grotto. Our guest today is Bailey Chase, and we want to thank INSP. We're going to talk about his latest project, but many other things as well. Actor Bailey Chase. Bailey, thanks for stopping by, man. How are you?
Absolutely. I'm doing great. Great to be here. So thank you. Looking forward to it.
I'm excited to talk with you, and I know Greg has the first question for you, Bailey.
Yeah, I want to jump right in because you mentioned you're in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Are you guys filming at the Biltmore, or where are you guys filming?
So it's funny. It's funny you asked that because my wife, who's a producer, she was shooting there yesterday, and she did not ask about my acting services. I don't understand. I was not invited to the Biltmore shoot yesterday. She does reality stuff. They were doing a documentary piece up there. That I have yet to work here in the state of North Carolina, but I'm hoping to soon. We moved here about 2 years ago and just love it.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
that's got to be great. And the process and your journey as an actor, you got to say, wow, it's going full circle. So talking documentary, Wow, that's
Mhm.
interesting as well. Is that what your wife is involved in the film industry
Yeah.
too?
So yeah, she's a producer on she does reality stuff, and she started out doing the dream homes for HGTV, and she's currently doing a documentary about someone who came over from Japan and did a lot of conservation in the Asheville, North Carolina area.
Oh,
Wow,
wow. How
very
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
tell us what you can about your project, that you're on right now,
So Florida Wild, 1880s. I grew up in Florida. I'm a Floridian. I had never heard of Mayaca City before, but it's near Sarasota, Bradenton, about an hour and a half from where I grew up, and I just had never heard of it. It's swampy ranch land, like I mentioned earlier. There's a huge elephant sanctuary there, so I'm excited to check that out. But I'm going down there next week for a few weeks. I'm not exactly sure. Probably shouldn't name names because all the deals weren't finalized when we were talking
NDAs and
about. I
everything,
mean,
Bailey, right?
all the things they'll come after me. Yeah, Florida Wild independent feature, and excited to work again for the first time working in Florida, my home state. So I'm pumped.
Awesome. We're gonna get to his latest project, Farhaven, which is
Yep.
funny because Chris Mulkey, my good friend Chris, we're gonna do a movie about the Road Warriors together. I was texting him yesterday saying, "Oh, by the way, do you know I'm interviewing everybody from there?" And he didn't mention it in the interview, but we'll get to it. Now, talk about your career, Bailey. How did it start? Did you always want to be an actor?
Yeah, yes and no. And it's funny about Chris Mulkey. He and I worked on a show called Saving Grace earlier in my career. Maybe not as early in his career. And he was like, "Wait, you were on that show?" I was like, "Dude," I was like, "Yes, I was." But anyway, I love Chris. But to answer your question, go a little further back. I graduated from college in 1995. Talk about coming in full circle. I went to school up the road in Durham, North Carolina, played football at Duke, and I fell in love with the state. Always wanted to get back here. Moved to LA with a dollar and a dream back in 1995, and I was lucky. I got in a class and started waiting tables right away. But within a year or two, I started making money in commercials. A couple years after that, I got on a show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Wow.
And then I thought I made it, right? I was on TV. My buddies could see me. I had like 2 lines an episode, but they had to pay me, so I was, it was a win-win because I wasn't that good at actor yet, and then I thought I'd made it, and then that they wrote me off the show. Buffy got a new boyfriend or whatever, and then I didn't work for like 2 years. All that money was gone, and I was caught up in all the stuff out there that the young actors in LA do. And I was like, oh, I'll never do a soap opera. And there I was, staring at 30 years old and broke. And I went and did a soap opera in New York. It was one of the best things I ever did. It was like boot camp of acting. You're on screen saying 30 pages a day, 3 days a week. And it also, got some money back in my pocket. Three of the best years of my life. I moved there right after 9/11. So it was a special time in New York. Felt very connected to that city. Reconnected with a lot of my college buddies who were working up there, and just great life experience. And then when that ended, I went back to LA, landed on Saving Grace that we just talked about, and then Damages, Longmire, Queen of the South, and Farhaven.
So
Wow.
did
There
you
you go.
get,
That's it. We're done.
No,
did you
not
get
at all. I got
kicked
a lot. We could talk so many different things that are. That's the one thing that Greg and I like is we don't know what our conversation is going to end up being. We have questions prepared, but you never know what happens in a conversation because that's what makes entertaining podcasts. But go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bailey, did you get kicked away from Buffy for Angel? Is that what happened?
No, actually, they kind of stumbled upon me and this other guy who played Riley. He was more the main squeeze. I was the side squeeze, if you will, for lack of a better term. We were right after Angel, and I don't know who came next. I mean, they were high school, then it was college, and I didn't watch the last season. So
Do you
Wow.
still
sorry.
do any Comic Cons for Buffy? Did they
Not
ever?
for no, not for Buffy. I started doing some more like cowboy stuff because of Longmire and things like Farhaven, and that's a whole nother subculture. But I haven't done the sci-fi stuff in quite some time.
Crazy. You know, when we interviewed Mulkey, was it last week?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was
great.
talking about how he loves to be the bad boy. How about you? What's your favorite role? What do you like to
You
do?
know, there's something to playing the villain. He makes a good one. I've been told I make a good one as well. I don't know if that's a compliment. But one of my earlier jobs was on. Hold on. Well, I did it. It's funny. You know, you do it this long, and it's like, wait, which one am I going to talk about? So, Cold Case was a really good one. That one's been rerunning a lot, but it wasn't a bad guy in that one. It was Criminal Minds, and I did two
Hmm.
episodes. And then I've been told I'm the most hated man in the history of that show, which is saying something because they did 12 or 14 seasons. But I
Yeah.
shot a very popular character, Garcia, on that show, who's a love. We got along fantastically. And then, you know, the first episode ends on a cliffhanger, and then they get me in the next one. But that was a really fun bad guy to play. But now here I am, you know, talk about full circle. I'm playing heroes again, which is kind of nice.
All right. So you keep talking about Longmire. It's kind
Yeah.
it comes, I don't know. I swear to you. I mean,
Like a fly.
so Longmire
Forest fly.
comes out everywhere. I'm going to give you an example while you answer a question. Tell
Okay.
me about Longmire because I've not watched it. Have you watched it, Greg?
I watched a few episodes. I did. Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
what's worse. I don't like not watching it or watching a couple and being like, yeah, it's not for me. No, Longmire is it's funny, you know, it was like the little engine that could. We started out on A&E. We didn't have a big budget, but a great team and camera crew. So it was a very ambitious shoot on these 7-day episode schedules. We did not have a lot of money. But the show, the landscape, we shot out in New Mexico, in and around Santa Fe, and the landscape became another character in the show. Fictionally set in Wyoming, based on a series of books. It came out right before Yellowstone, and that you know, we talked about the popularity of the American Western
Yeah.
coming back. And I feel like Longmire actually had a bit to do with that. It was, you know, it was a unique show at the time. There was nothing like it. Longmire, you know, went from A&E to Netflix, and it had its run there. Then COVID happened, and everybody had to stay home. Everybody's like, "What's this Longmire? What is that?" They watched everything that was on Netflix, Longmire being one of them. So then we got a whole nother wave of fans. Then Yellowstone happened, knocked it out of the park. It's, you know, Longmire times 100 in terms of success. And then so it kind of paved the way. And now everybody wants every network. So I get these auditions. And it's like, yeah, we want to make our version of Yellowstone / Longmire. So
Got it. Got it. That
Yeah,
makes
So
total
yeah.
sense.
I have to catch up to Longmire now. And
I
mean, I
think it's worth
I
checking
swear I'm
out.
going to go pull up who was in Longmire and say, okay. But
Well, if
go
I-
ahead, Greg,
yeah.
with your next question.
I was going to
'cause
give
you
it.
I-
I
always
think
if I'm
are-
not,
another shot.
I
You know,
could
now that
I could give him, yeah, we could give him more reasons. We could, you know, if it's I'm not enough
No,
of a
anybody
reason.
I interview, I
if-
become a fan of certain things. So, for example, I had somebody on, you know, from some show, and I'll watch the whole thing and I'll stream it because
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
thing. Hey, because they're my friend
That's
now
awesome.
because they've been on my show.
I love it.
That's how you support things. But
I love it.
kind of talk about like, so Longmire got that Western bug going. Now, did you feel that after your part in Longmire kind of led to, hey, you are a guy that could be the Western guy?
Yeah, and it was you know, I played Branch Connolly, deputy sheriff. You find out in the first episode that I'm running against Longmire, the sheriff, for his job, and that maybe I'm sleeping with his daughter as well. So boom, let's just get that out of the gate in the first episode. And then the sheriff like sees that I'm running against him. Spoiler alert, but it's all in the first episode. He flips his 1980s Bronco. Boom, it's got great music. It's a really fun show. All of the main characters other than mine were established in the books. There were like 10 books when we started the TV show. Craig Johnson, there's more now, obviously. And so they had a lot of IP, a lot of material to draw from, but they put Branch into the TV show because they only had 47 minutes to tell the story, not 300, 400 pages, and they needed more conflict in the show. So Branch was a character who was good, but he wasn't always good, like the best intentions, but I'm going against the lead guy for his job. And by the way, I'm, you know, dating your daughter and all the other things you're not supposed to do as a sheriff's deputy.
But
So,
Bailey,
but by the end, I think Branch is a good guy, and
Yeah, and
maybe
one of
you
the
miss
other
him when he's
stars
gone.
on the show with Bailey, A. Martinez, is coming on in 15
Oh,
minutes,
yeah,
Greg.
that's
So
right.
we're
Ace,
really we're hitting the Longmire long ball.
That's
A's
it.
a much better reason. You got Lou Diamond Phillips, you got Katie Sackhoff, you got Rob Taylor, Cassie Freeman. I mean, you
Yeah,
got lots to
that's
look at on that show.
Yeah.
so Bailey, you know, when you're acting, like who's been the biggest influence on you in your acting? You know, do you like if you're doing a Western, are you thinking about, you know, Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, you know, like
That's
who's
so great.
influencing you?
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, I was very humbled to get some comparisons, I guess. You know, I'm no John Wayne, but people really likened it. We did a premiere here locally to raise funds for our local first responders in need, and INSP was great. They sent us the film. We did the thing. We raised 10 grand for a screening in a small town here in North Carolina. It's really great. And a lot of people came up to me later on, you know, older members of the audience. They go, "Oh, you look like John Wayne. You reminded me of John Wayne in this movie and that one." And he was right before my time. I grew up on Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford. So those
Yeah.
were my guys kind of early on. And when I was studying acting and inspired me to come into this. And then it was like Marlon Brando. But today, you know, I look to even, you know, some guys who were younger than me. Tom Hardy's doing amazing stuff. I watched Lyle Crocodile with Javier Bardem the other night, like, you know, because I got young kids, and this is one of the best performances I've ever seen. So, you know, as an artist, you draw creative inspiration from everything around you, and I get to see performances like that, and Javier Bardem. I mean, look at his resume and what he's done, and so to go from that goofy character in a borderline kids movie to No Country for Old Men or whatever, like, wow, that's talent. So I get it from everywhere.
And you can't believe you never know what your next spot's going to be. Like you say, you're going to shoot something, and we don't know what's going to happen when you go shoot this, right? You can't
This,
mention anything in the NDA, and it could be the one that is a game changer. You've had game
yeah,
changers, but do
yes.
you feel someday there's going to be an Academy Award winning acting gig at one point?
I appreciate that. You know, that's in God's hands. You know, and I'm old enough and humble enough to say that now. It's not up to me. Whatever He puts in front of me, I'm gonna take it on and do my best work. And it's not about the awards. Of course, that would be incredible. If that were to fall into my lap. But you know, what was so great about Farhaven? It's a story about redemption, doing the right thing. You know, there were some external forces, one of them being Chris Mulkey's character, coming after me. But at the end of the day, I was able to, you know, stand strong in my faith, and, you know, everything, you know, goes the way it's supposed to in that one. And yeah, this thing that I'm getting ready to go do down in Florida. It's another one. It's a character that I haven't played before, where it's a little bit Clint Eastwood and Unforgiven, where I've you know, sworn off violence. I've had a violent past, and and I've sworn that off. But when the bad guys come for my family, I'm forced to protect them, and I do it in pretty spectacular fashion. So I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited to shoot that.
Well,
Awesome.
I got to get into Westerns for one reason only.
Good for
One
you.
of my reasons, one of my clients writes Western books, and
Okay.
we're going to now, my publishing company is going to republish all his Westerns. So it'll be intriguing to look at understanding that audience
Hmm.
and building it, because it's a huge cult audience, Westerns. It
Yeah.
totally is. And it's like gigantic in books and movies. And as you said, Longmire, I won't bring up the other name, is
Yeah.
reason. So basically,
Thank you for that. But you know, I mean, of course, Yellowstone feeds off Longmire, and vice versa. People burn through Yellowstone, and then they went back and watched Longmire, and then, you know, and like you, like your friends, you know, people who come on your show become your friends, and then you watch all their stuff, and it's similar. So like all these Yellowstone Longmire fans are now watching Farhaven. It was the #1 movie, new release on Amazon for I don't know how many weeks, but I want to say 6 weeks later, the director Gary Wheeler was texting me, so we're still #1. Can you believe it? I'm like, no, because we were this lower budget, in comparison to the 200 million, whatever Hollywood versions of doing a Western. We were probably down there at a couple million, and it looks like a $20 million movie. And everybody showed up and made it number one for 6 weeks or more. It's incredible.
Oh, that's cool. Bailey, I got to ask you, did you like Cowboys and Aliens? Did you like that movie?
I did.
Yeah.
So that also has two of my favorite actors, obviously, and that was great. You know what was shooting at the time, right when my twins were born, that I really want to go back and see, that my buddy Zahn's also in Longmire. Zahn McLaren, who's in Dark Winds. He was on Westworld. So I got to
love
go
Dark
back.
Winds. Oh,
Oh.
so good.
Oh, he's so good. Yeah. So not for nothing, but there's something coming up this season on Dark Winds that hopefully I can
All right,
rejoin
we're
my
gonna jump
man
into
Zahn.
Farhaven, or INSP is
Yeah.
gonna get mad at me.
Okay,
And
so
so again, I love
Let's
INSP, and it's
focus, Bailey.
amazing. I was working with INSP for just radio only because I wasn't really into the video podcasting till COVID. That's when I took off doing more videos with celebrities. I hooked
Mhm.
up with them, and that was when they just started original programming to the level it is now. So
Yeah.
let's talk about Farhaven. You talked a little about the character, you talked about a little bit about Chris Mulkey, but let's hear the premise of the show.
Well, so I'll start off with, so we talked about, I got out of college and started my career in 1995. So we're coming up on 30 years now. And Farhaven's one of the best jobs I've ever had. So that right out of the gate, best cast, best crew, incredible collaborative director in Gary Wheeler. He's one who he went to bat for me, took a risk to be like, this is my guy. And I hadn't played the hero in a while. And so for him to put me, number one on the call sheet, lead of his movie, for a guy who hasn't really, done that. So kudos to him for taking that risk. The response has been great. Fortunately, I had that great supporting cast around me. So, but yeah, Hunter Braddock is the guy that I play, and he's just getting out of jail in the beginning of the film, and he has to, come back to his hometown, hat in hand, full of humility, and he wants to get, back with his children. And Bruce Boxleitner, I can't believe I haven't mentioned that name yet. Incredible actor, great person. Good horseman too. He comes flying up in the beginning of the movie, stops about 2 feet in front of me, and starts yelling at me to get lost, and then then there we are in the town of Farhaven, and the movie just takes off from there.
Yeah, and
Wow.
you have Marty Cove as well.
Yeah,
we're having
yeah.
Marty, but guess what? I have a special. We're going live, Greg, with Marty on
Yeah.
Friday
Is that
that
Friday?
I'm going to do.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause, one of the biggest, I guess, Chris Mulkey's one of the biggest bad,
Yes.
now then Marty. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Martin Cove.
So
Yeah.
having those three in the room together, Bruce, Marty, Chris, I mean, that was amazing. And then Marty's son Jesse is in the movie, and he's incredible. We had a little, kind of a Butch and Sundance thing going there with me and Jesse, which was great. And he's also a good writer. And then A. Martinez, and to get to work with him again at this time in his career, I mean, he's having a real renaissance. The guy's working all the time, and one of my favorite actors to work with.
Wow, that's great. So let me just ask you a quick question.
Mhm.
So you love acting, obviously, and you're great at it, which is so cool.
Thank you.
What do you love most about acting, and what do you find the most challenging thing about being an actor?
So that's a good question. The most rewarding is to be surprised in my work, to just show up and see what happens. Obviously, there's a lot of prep involved. Doing the same thing right now. There's the physical prep, but also the emotional and mental, everything else. And then to do all that and then let it go and get on set and then be surprised, to have it go in a direction that you never anticipated. So that's the biggest reward, that human connection that you get with your co-stars. And then it's nice to see it, on the big screen when it's all said and done. You get a real, feeling of accomplishment when that happens. The biggest challenge, when you work and you have that experience and you're at such a high, the biggest challenge is kind of coming back home. Of course, it's great to see the family, but by the next day, you're like, what's next? And
Yeah.
and that's the biggest thing, because you're up and you're down and you don't really know what's next. And I know that I have something coming up in the fall to go out to Utah but once I get home from Florida, that I'm gonna have 6 months to be like, what's next, and
Yeah.
and so that's probably the biggest challenge. And then I have a family of 5. I got 3 young kids and a wife who are dependent on me to bring home the bacon. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yes. Who's
Yeah.
next? I see that in my celebrity interview process. Who am I going to top? And you have that feeling. You're like, man. And it all started when I worked with Art Sears Radio Tour, who I'm working with again. And he's given me some crazy people you never thought I'd get to interview. And it just keeps going. You gotta,
Yeah.
you're just like you said, your last acting year's best is your last acting gig. Your best is
Yeah.
your newest client, your newest sale, your newest something. You
Yeah.
gotta always improve to get to the next thing if you really are passionate and love what you do. I know, Greg, you
Yeah.
have that final question, and it's your favorite question. And
I'm
I
excited.
I don't know what the answer, how Bailey's going to answer this.
Well, I can't wait to find out. So Bailey, I asked this of everyone that we interview, and here we go. Tell me, what's the most important thing in life you feel you've ever learned?
That it's not about me. We all got a role to play, and there's a bigger story happening. And to just show up and do the best we can and not be don't be hard on ourselves. That's what I would tell everybody.
Cool.
Yeah.
He's a very humble actor, Bailey. That's what I would say, Greg. And that's the
Very
important
humble.
thing.
Yeah.
Very down to earth. And I know he knows it. But again, Duke, again, I'm bringing up Duke. Pitt beat Duke in Cameron Indoor Stadium this year.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
a Pitt fan, and that
They're
was
not
a
the
shock,
only ones.
right?
Yeah,
Whenever we get a
lost
chance
at
to
Wake
beat
last week too, but yeah.
Oh no. So
Yeah.
without Krzyzewski, you guys aren't the same team.
Well, I don't want to take anything away from this team. This is Coach Shire's team, and they're great, but you can't win them all. And the important thing is to learn through failure. Failure is the biggest teacher, and it's gotten me to where I am today. I've had a lot more failure than success, and for college hoops, it's all about March Madness. So it's
did
right
you,
around the
when
corner.
you played
And we
at
got
Duke,
to beat Carolina. We got to beat
yeah,
Carolina
when you played for Duke,
Yeah.
did you was Duke good in basketball? Yes.
So yes and no. So it was 180 degrees. So my freshman year, we won the second of the back-to-backs with Leitner, Hurley, Grant Hill. My senior year, Coach K got hurt. Cherokee Parks was my class, if you remember him.
Yeah.
Coach K threw out his back. Assistant coach came in, and they were terrible. And Duke football was top 20, and we went to a bowl game.
Hey,
So,
that's another
so
part of your
that?
story.
How about that, Pitt? We didn't play Pitt at the time.
Oh
So.
no, we're gonna go.
Yeah, they weren't in
So-
the ACC back then.
Yeah,
But we
yeah.
beat-
So
we beat
yeah, go
Clemson.
Pitt. I don't know. Pitt football is going to be decent this year. We'll have to see. It's every year, but again, with this new, wouldn't you have liked to got paid as an athlete? This is a different
Yes.
game. I had
Yeah.
Darnell Dinkins
was-
texting me, former Super Bowl champion, played for the Saints. He's a former client of mine. He texts me. He says, "Hey, you want my son to be posting in Instagram for you your business stuff?" I'm like, "Oh, this is what these kids are doing, and they get these little deals." And
I know.
It's a very interesting.
They're
thing.
making money. I got food points. Like I had a food plan. That's all my.
I
scholarships
played
gave me.
D3 basketball at Western Maryland, which is McDaniel College, and so I understand the student athlete thing. But you must be a bright guy too, Duke. Oh my!
Well,
oh my!
I snuck in the back door.
Duke is the Harvard of North Carolina, right?
They say so. North Carolinians might not say that, but maybe it's the Harvard of the South. Maybe something.
Harvard of the South.
It's something.
All right, Bailey. Where can people connect with you? Best place?
Instagram at Bailey Chase.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Love Is Podcast. I'm excited to welcome the host of the Love Is Podcast, Kim Sorrell. Kim, how are you? And to know you're excited about our guests and to continue to talk about this amazing show.
Yeah, I'm excited about our guests. Thank you, Neil. Brett Barvel and Kristen Wallet, you guys play a married couple on what is now my favorite TV show ever.
I love it.
I love it. And you both are so skilled and you've done a bunch of things. And Brett, since you were 5 years old, you wanted to act. And Kristen, you're writing and I can't wait to read what you write. And so you do things beyond acting, and you're both amazing people. And then they took these two amazing people and they put them in this groundbreaking series, right? It's Great American Pureflix first original series, and it's
Mhm.
based on medicine, like so many series are, but it's the first one that is Christian. And I love it. I love it. And I love you two together. Welcome to the show, by the way. I'm talking. Can't wait to talk to you guys.
Thank you.
But you have such incredible chemistry in the show. I want to hear about that. I want to hear about your chemistry.
Well, it's very forced. I gotta be honest with you. No,
Yeah,
I'm just
we
kidding.
smell so bad. Yeah.
No, we tend to tolerate each other pretty well. No, yeah, it was kind of a cool. Both of us got cast kind of the whole thing kind of came together at the last minute, and so Kristen and I didn't really have a lot of time to get to know each other until our first day on set, which is usually a recipe for a disaster, to be honest with you. And but man, like from the first day, it was just like it made sense, it clicked. But within our first scene, I had her laughing, which is always kind of a good sign of, especially because I play the goofball in the show. So if I can't make the on-screen wife laugh, then we're in big trouble. And so yeah, it really clicked from day one.
Wow. And what do you think when you talk about it, Kristen? Do you agree with Brett on what he was saying about the chemistry?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny. Sometimes you meet people and you just feel like you've known them your whole life, right? There's just an aura about them. There's like, I don't know. That's just how I felt when I met him. We had this, foundation of faith that we both had together, and just so many of these similarities. And I don't know, it just clicked. It was awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, you both do a great job, and yeah, you're kind of a clown, Brett, on the show. But that's okay.
That is the greatest
'Cause
compliment you could give
need a
me.
little levity, right? I mean, it's
That's
about paramedics and all these emergencies and things that they're going on. And so you bring that to the show, which is great,
Thank
because
you.
most of the time I'm crying while I'm watching the show. So it's nice to have a laugh or two. And so I'm curious for you guys, you've done so many different things apart from each other. How is this different than other projects you've worked on?
I'd say one of the most defining things that was the consistent through line throughout this production process was community. There was a really strong sense of togetherness on our set, not just in the cast, but then also in the crew. We all saw that we were a part of something that was new. Especially we didn't know at the time that this was going to be Great American's first original series. We were just making a show we were passionate about. But we all kind of bought into that. Wow, we could be a part of something that's special, even though we didn't know what it was going to become. And I think that really just bonded everybody together, and that was a really special thing to see.
And I think also that one of the differences is it kind of leadership trickles down, right? So we had this fearless, amazing leader in Brian, our director, and who wrote it. And he is just so gracious on set, and he was so amazing, and kind of fostered the most amazing environment to be able to really trust each other and to trust the director and to have room to explore and to play. And that really made it special.
Yeah.
Wow, it definitely does. And what are your thoughts, Brett, when again, how we're highlighting a certain group of people in the medical field and how they're so undershadowed? We don't talk about how important they are when we talk about EMTs,
Right. Yeah, it was a very enlightening experience for me. I mean, this is our best effort to honor the first responders of our world, because you don't often think about what these people go through. When they respond to a call, they quite possibly could be giving someone the best news of their life, or they could be delivering the worst news imaginable.
Oh, totally.
And everything in between. And they have to be ready to handle all of that, not just the medical side, but the emotional side, the spiritual side. And that was something that was so eye-opening to me, and it has given me such an appreciation and a reverence for these people who selflessly put themselves in these situations on a day-to-day basis. It's not just like it happens every once in a while. This is their life. And so one of the things that we hope that this show does is inspire people to thank first responders, but then also maybe even if they feel that tug on their heart to join into that type of a career themselves.
Yeah, that's a great thing because they're needed
Yeah.
so much. And I love that I'm learning so much about what EMTs do. Like I think you keep it as close to real life as you possibly can with all the things that EMTs go through. And it's a lot. I mean, it's mental and
Yeah.
it's physical, it's emotional, like there's so much involved. And somehow they have to know it all. Like I'm surprised how much EMTs really need to know. Kristen, what's your take on it? Like, being in the surroundings of that, like, are you learning stuff about EMTs as well? And are you blown away like I am?
Oh, absolutely. They are amazing people. The environment that they have to exist in every day is just like what you said. It is physically exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting. It is so demanding. And so one of the bright spots for me in the shoot was to be able to actually talk to a lot of real EMTs. We had one on set every single day with us, multiple of them that we would
That's
talk
great.
to not only help with the logistics of the scenes and to make sure that we were doing things correctly, and then also to kind of guide us on what liberties we can take, because it couldn't be exactly the way, that it is. There's
Gotta have some movie magic in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But not only for that, but to also talk to them about what it really is like. What are those feelings that you have when you're walking up to a scene where you don't know what you're walking into? And how do you wrap up the end of the day with a bow and go home to your wife and kids? Like, what does that look like? Or your husband and your kids? It's just, it was very grounding. It was a very emotional experience, but in the most beautiful way possible. I just have so much more respect and awe for what they do.
No, it definitely, I have respect for them for just the experiences of see what they do, but to put it on a show finally, and then the first, again, Christian medical drama, that's got to be huge. And it's exciting that you guys are part of that groundbreaking, many different groundbreaking things for sure. Brett, how did you prepare for your character, Brett? What were some of your things that you did to prepare for your character?
I got back in touch with my immature side, and I loved getting reconnected with a younger version of myself, because much of what my character does throughout the most of the episodes is I'm just supposed to be there to bring the community of the family together and to make people smile is really what my character serves throughout the course of the show. I do get to go out on a call, and you get to see a more serious side of Andy. But so honestly, a lot of the preparation was just reminding myself of the stupid things that I used to do in school, and just to see if someone would laugh.
Wow. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Kim, I mean, you're the one that's been getting the opportunity to really tune into the season. I've been so swamped, and you've just been blown away, it sounds like, from what you've talked about watching it.
Absolutely. I highly recommend it. I've been putting it on my social media because it is so good, and it's so well done. And Kristen is like Andy's barometer of I don't know, trying to keep you grounded. I guess she's the level-headed
right.
one.
She is, for sure.
Yeah, but so compassionate and shows
Yeah.
such empathy and such great bedside manner and just amazing. And so I gotta fly. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I will get you
I got
going.
myself
I'll get you out, Kim. All
Okay,
right, that's
okay.
so go ahead, tune into Great American Pure Flicks, County Rescue. Appreciate it, Brett. Thank you, Kristen, and thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming
thank
by.
you. You guys
All
are
right.
amazing,
All right.
amazing.
Appreciate
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you so
Okay, that
much.
was the special simulcast
Bye-bye.
of the Neil Haley Show and Love His Podcast, guys. Take care.